Step into the heart of southern Africa, and you'll find a story of migration, conquest, and incredible cultural fusion. This is the story of the Ndebele Kingdom, a powerful nation forged from diverse peoples. Let's journey back in time to explore the intricate social fabric that held this kingdom together, starting with its vibrant heart, the Umuzi, the traditional Ndebele homestead. Imagine a bustling, circular village, a testament to a society that was as organized as it was dynamic. Today, we are uncovering the daily life, the laws, and the people who made the Ndebele Kingdom one of history's most fascinating societies. At the core of Ndebele society was a unique three-tiered caste system, a living map of their history. At the very top were the Abazansi, which means the people from the south. These were the original Kamalo clan and other Nguni groups who traveled north with the kingdom's founder, Mzilikazi, from what is now KwaZulu-Natal. They formed the aristocracy, the royal family, and the highest-ranking military leaders. Their lineage was pure Nguni, and they held the most power and prestige. They were the keepers of the original traditions and the undisputed rulers of the kingdom. Next came the Enhla, or the people from above. This group was made up of the Sotho and Swana communities that were peacefully assimilated or conquered as Mzilikazi's people journeyed through the Transvaal region. The Enhla were highly respected and were quickly integrated into the Ndebele military and political structure. Many rose to positions of power as chiefs, or Izinduna, and their cultural practices, particularly in terms of craftsmanship and architecture, began to blend with Nguni traditions, creating a richer, more diverse Ndebele identity. They were not seen as outsiders, but as an essential and valued part of the nation. The third and largest group was the Amahole. This term, which could be translated as outsiders or laborious, referred to the local Shona, Kalenga, and other groups who were incorporated into the kingdom after the Ndebele settled in the region now known as Matabeleland. Initially, they formed the lowest rung of the social ladder, often serving as herders, farmers, or tribute laborious for the higher castes. However, the system wasn't entirely rigid. Through military service or loyalty to a chief, individuals from the Amahole could gain status and wealth. Over generations, the lines between these castes began to blur as intermarriage became more common, slowly weaving everyone into a single, unified Ndebele nation. The physical layout of their communities perfectly mirrored this social order. The Umuzi, or homestead, was a masterpiece of social engineering. It was always built in a circular pattern. At the very center was the Isabaya, the cattle kraal. This wasn't just a pen for animals. It was the spiritual and economic heart of the community. Cattle represented wealth, status, and a connection to the ancestors. All major ceremonies, from births to marriages, were linked to the Isabaya. The placement of the cattle at the center symbolized their supreme importance and also protected them from raids. Surrounding the cattle kraal were the houses, arranged in a specific, hierarchical order. The principal hut, belonging to the head of the family, faced the entrance of the homestead. The huts of his wives were then arranged in order of seniority. The first wife's hut would be on the right-hand side, a position of great honor, and the other wives' huts would follow. This circular design created a communal yet highly organized living space, where everyone knew their place and their role within the family and the wider community. Ndebele architecture itself is iconic. Early homes were the classic beehive-shaped grass huts, typical of Nguni people. But as they settled and integrated with Sotho Swana groups, their style evolved. They began building cone-on-cylinder houses with thatched roofs and mud walls. What truly made them stand out was the art. The women decorated the outer walls of their homes with stunning geometric patterns, painted with natural pigments like black soot, white clay, and red and yellow ochre. These weren't just for decoration. The patterns were a form of communication, expressing the family's identity, status, and even prayers for a good harvest or healthy children. Family was the bedrock of Ndebele society, and marriage was a cornerstone of that foundation. Polygamy was common, especially among the king and his chiefs. King Lobengula, for example, is said to have had over 20 wives. This wasn't just about personal desire, it was a political and economic strategy. Marrying into different powerful families created alliances and strengthened the kingdom's unity. Each wife had her own household, complete with her own hut, fields to cultivate, and a designated herd of cattle. She was the manager of her own domestic sphere, contributing to the overall wealth of the family. No marriage could happen without lobola, the practice of bride wealth. When a man wanted to marry a woman, his family had to negotiate a payment to her family, and this payment was almost always made in cattle. The number of cattle depended on the bride's social standing and her family's prestige. Lobola wasn't buying a wife, It was a gesture of respect, a way of compensating her family for the loss of a daughter, and a formal process that united the two families. The exchange of cattle created a lasting bond and ensured the stability of the marriage and the legitimacy of any children born from it. Raising children was a communal effort, with clear pathways laid out for them from a young age. Boys were groomed to be warriors. From the age of about 8, they would leave their mothers' huts to live in groups with other boys their age, learning to herd cattle, hunt, and handle sticks for fighting. These age sets, known as amabutho, would grow up together, forming an unbreakable bond of brotherhood. When they reached manhood, they would be formally regimented into the king's army, ready to defend the nation. Girls, on the other hand, were taught the essential skills of running a household. Their mothers and the older women of the homestead, the omakoti, would teach them everything from farming and pottery to the intricate art of beadwork. Ndebele beadwork is famous for its beauty and complexity. The colors and patterns of the beads worn by a woman could tell you her marital status, her age group, and whether she had children. For a girl, mastering these skills was crucial for her future role as a wife and mother, the keeper of the family's traditions and the manager of the home. The Ndebele economy revolved around two main pillars: cattle and grain. Cattle were the ultimate measure of wealth, used for milk, meat, and of course, lobola. The king owned vast herds, which he would loan out to his chiefs and subjects, a system called ukasisa. This ensured loyalty, as a person's wealth was directly tied to the king's generosity. The daily diet, however, was based on agriculture. Maize, or corn, was the staple food, ground into a meal to make a thick porridge called isitshwala. This was often eaten with milk, vegetables, or occasionally, meat. Meat was a luxury, usually reserved for special occasions like rituals or celebrations, or when hunters brought back game. Politically, the kingdom was a highly centralized but cleverly managed state. The entire nation was divided into regimental towns or wards, known as Izilindi. Each ward was commanded by an Induna, a chief appointed by the king for his loyalty and military skill. These Izinduna were the king's eyes and ears across the land. They collected tribute, settled local disputes, and were responsible for raising warriors for the king's army. This structure allowed the king to maintain tight control over a vast territory and a diverse population, ensuring that everyone, from the highest Abazansi aristocrat to the newest Amahol member, owed their allegiance to him. In the end, the story of the Ndebele is a powerful lesson in nation building. It shows how a small group of Nguni migrants, through military strength and a remarkable capacity for assimilation, created a new and vibrant identity. The strict social hierarchy of Abazansi, Enhla, and Amahol provided order. But it was the shared culture, the language, the military system, the art, and the allegiance to the king that truly united them. The Ndebele Kingdom was more than just a conquest state. It was a melting pot where diverse origins were forged into a single, resilient, and enduring people. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the Ndebele Kingdom. If you found this fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more journeys into the rich tapestry of history. Let me know in the comments what other cultures you'd like to explore. See you next time.